so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist.
Oh, good morning, and here we are back again. It's a Friday morning, and we'll see what the week has dragged up. It's been a fascinating week in politics, hasn't it? All right, let me get comfy. Now, I'm going to apologise to some people because they complained that the lighting was getting in their eyes, and I tried changing things this morning, and it looks as if all I've done is I managed to get more light in their eyes. So let's see if we can move the camera around and make it not quite as glaring as it appears to be. All right, Keith Hayes broadcasting on Mirador Television from Lewes in the southern part of England, East Sussex, a group of tiny towns. We nudge on Brighton, which is a city, got about 400,000 people, nudging on 500,000, I suppose. It swells enormously during the summer when people come down because it is full of delights, summer delights. Great place to go if you like the great buzz of a seaside city. We, on the other hand, tend to be rather placid, and most of the towns from Battle to Brighton, and up north to Gatwick, and up north to Tunbridge Wells, which is our remit. They are communities of very few that are over 100,000. So we are the tiny towns of Britain, even though East and West Sussex at one time were the biggest county anywhere in the United Kingdom. And of course we have as our boss, if you like, Lieutenant Governor, well, not our Lieutenant Governor, as our Gov, is the Duke of Sussex, of course, and his wife Meghan, and it's quite an interesting area, really, for a whole host of reasons. Very historic indeed. But also it has the same problems that beset the rest of the United Kingdom, and probably at this particular stage in history the rest of the world, and that is a poor standard of political life. Doesn't matter where you start. You want to start in Westminster, where Maria Caulfield, our local MP, had the opportunity to pop a question at Prime Minister's Question Time. When you consider there's 640 MPs sitting there, to get the opportunity to raise something at Prime Minister's Question Time is, well, I don't know, it's a privilege, really. It should be a right. But, and the former MP, Norman Baker, in his first year, he got into the Guinness Book of Records are asking more questions at Prime Minister's Question Time than any other MP on record at that particular time. So I guess it's not that difficult. But anyway, she asked a question, and really it was all about the defection of one party member to another party member, and at local level this time, not at national level. And I mean, really, who gives a fig? What we're really looking for is governance of substance, governance of efficiency, governance of care for local people. It ain't happening. So really, hopefully, we can be the conscience of the councils. No, we can't be the conscience of the councils. They don't have any conscience, those people. They use every tactic they can to get their own way. And in fact, of course, they've formed a cabal, it appears, to try and push through a dual carriageway road all the way from Lewes to Eastbourne and beyond ripping up some of the most historic parts and beautiful parts of the country. And that is so typical. They don't bother to ask us. They've done it in secret because they know very well that most of us will not approve. And particularly in a time when transportation means are being looked at, and concern over the motor car means that alternatives are on file. And anyway, it appears to me that government policy at one time was to encourage us all to travel by train. Aha. Well, doesn't that fly in the face, contrary in the face of government policy, if we want to build a huge motorway from here to there? It's crazy. There is no joined-up government at all. But Chris Grayling, for whom I have little regard, I have to say, as a politician, but then again, he joins a whole host of people for whom I have little regard as a politician, local or national, for that matter, and even less for the people that are running their departments, the faceless bureaucrats. He apparently has got a huge pot of money that he's gathered from the license tax disc thingy, which he can spend on roads. But surely it's within the government's remit to pour some of that money into the railways and make sure that they're efficient, which they're not, and even change the franchise. But then again, Chris Grayling thinks that Southern Rail is efficient. So it just tells you the sort of silly thinking, doesn't it? I mean, I bet you he never gets onto a train and tests it for himself. That's beyond our politicians now. They're too fond of crowding into their subsidised bars and their subsidised dining rooms and getting all the privileges that MPs get. Let's wipe away those privileges and then see whether they really get down to proper business. And let's make sure that those people who do stand for office have done a proper job in their lives. You know, don't have to have got their fingers dirty, necessarily. They could have been a journalist. One or two have. One or two have been in the army. But most have not done anything other than being a politician, and it's turned into a career now, instead of being a matter of duty. And, people laugh at that matter of duty. And they often say, well, it was only the upper class that really, the very wealthy, who had a sense of duty. Well, that may be true, but that sense of duty was enormous. There's a lady who lived here in Lewis for a long time, Heather Robinson, who died at 98, and her husband, Ronald, lasted till almost 108. And they both came up with silver spoons in their mouths, and they did more for this community than anybody, because Heather had a great sense of duty. Her father-in-law, I think it was her stepfather actually, was the architect who built the Greater London Council building on the side of the Thames, that big arched building that you can see if you stand by the House of Commons and look over the River Thames. It's now partly a hotel, boutiques and all sorts of things, but he built that. And she discovered, she told me one day about how she went to the opening and sat with royalty, etc., etc. Okay, all very highfalutin stuff. But she discovered that a plaque on the wall commemorating her father-in-law's stepfather's contribution to that, the architect who built it, and who came from nowhere, by the way. That's the wonderful thing about architects. They do tend to come up with things and they come to prominence straight away. But anyway, and she discovered that when the Japanese were going to buy it, and I'm never sure to this day whether they did or they didn't, but she was determined that that plaque should be kept intact, and she stormed off up to London. I mean, she was about 89 at the time, put on a tin helmet, and grabbed her brolly, got onto a train which staggered to London eventually, went and saw English Heritage and said, you will remove that plaque, or the Japanese will remove that plaque over my dead body. And it's still there in the DLC. Okay, that was something for her, but she had this great sense of duty, and she made huge contributions to Lewis while she was here. And all in all, if only we could get that sense of duty back into our politicians, it would be terrific. Now, this business of the road, let me say two things, first of all. One is Lewis Eye is a remarkable website. Those of you who haven't found it, find it. I wish we'd got the resources and I wish we'd got the personnel to do the job that they're doing in investigative journalism. I suspect, and I don't know them at all, I have no idea who runs it. I'm just looking at the site from the point of view of being a fairly experienced and worldly, I suppose, journalist, because I've worked in almost every corner of the world. Whoever it is running it knows his stuff, or her stuff. They are excellent investigative journalists, and they come up with all sorts of stuff that nobody else has thought about or knows exists. And they have done an analysis of this road, this proposed road, and why it's being built, and why the secrecy, and so on. And it is a masterpiece. So go on to their site, Lewis Eye, E-Y-E, Lewis Eye. Take a look. And even if you don't like reading a lot, they do it in a journalistic fashion so that if you're the sort of person that reads the first couple of paragraphs and can't be bothered for the rest, you'll get the picture. You'll get the picture. And it is another example of government going behind people's backs, worried that we will all say no, that we don't want it. Which then goes on to, they know much better, don't they, what we want in life. My dear old friend Ken Clarke standing up and saying, I don't think anybody should have anything to do with Brexit. They don't know, they don't understand that we do. Well, I do once remember seeing Ken Clarke in Hove at a bar. But other than that, with his hush puppies and so on and so forth, he seemed to be a man of the people, but of course he wasn't. He was a typical politician, and is a typical politician to this day. They don't believe that they represent the people. They believe that they represent what they interpret is the will of the people. It's crazy. And as for local, I'm going to go to my first council meeting on Monday to see how they behave themselves here. Be very interesting. It's not my first council meeting, actually. I've been to them in the past, but I haven't been recently. But I see that the scrutiny committee is meeting that day. This is the famous scrutiny committee that can't scrutiny. they hold the bloke who looks after the phones in front of them the last time they met a couple of months or so ago, and demanded answers about the phone system. And basically he saluted and said, don't worry, govs and govesses, we'll actually sort it. It's just temporary. Well, that's a long temporary, because it's still in exactly the same state. If any of you have read, I'm sure many of you have, the new magazine, Town and County, you'll see that somebody's written quite a humorous article about push 1, push 2, push 3. Okay, it's written tongue-in-cheek, but there is a certain reality about it, that's exactly what does happen and still happens. My neighbour tried the other day, and he had to get through a bewildering amount. And he's retired, but he was a chief executive of a very, very big company. So he understands how to get through and eventually get the information. But what about the poor elderly couple who are on nothing but a pension and are going to be affected by this? How do they get the information? Well, the council don't care, as long as they've got somebody to kick. And they're kicking me at the moment, by the way. So watch out. I think there's going to be another series down the line. Oh, my goodness me. You know, if it wasn't so damn ridiculous, it would be funny. But they do not treat people very well. Not at all. And they don't care. That's the point. They simply do not care. Our political system is in tatters. Right, it's 6 o'clock and I've got to go, because I've got to go up to the radio studio now so I can continue this rant. But a couple of things. Boris Johnson, Mr. Marmite, love him, hate him, but you'll never forget him. Boris Johnson made a speech saying that he believed that governance had got to change from the top to the bottom, that what we've got at the moment is not satisfactory, and I think that he's right. And whether he knew something or not, I have no idea, but a couple of councillors from outside Lewis, outside East Sussex actually, tell me that there is quite a bit of change in the wind, and I hope that that is the case. Because at the moment, any change, you know, sometimes they say, don't wish to get rid of the devil you know for the devil you don't. But I think that the devil that we know, it's time for him to go. And let's hope that change is in the wind. Anyway, that's it for this morning. I will see you again on Monday morning. Oh, the one thing I did want to say at the top of the show is thank you very much for all those people who, our audience is slowly growing. We haven't reached the heady days yet of the 6,000 that we got way back in the summer. but we are growing, and we're growing a solid audience who watch us and can talk about us and talk intelligently about the things that we talk about on this program. So I just wanted to say that before the weekend. Thank you so much. And for the moment, toodle pip.